Hello class 9, welcome back to your social studies classes. Children, I hope you had enjoyed your holidays and you had great fun and you had spent your holidays with in excitement and in creating new things, new ideas, right? But still, I must say that few students of class 9, they are they did not turn up because they are still not sending their assignments, their home assignments. So my request is just do the home assignments and send them as soon as possible, right children? So let's begin our class, and today we are going to continue the same chapter number 2 from Indian history, and the name of the chapter is the early Vedic civilization, and the topic to be covered today is social, economic and religious belief or religious life of the early Vedic civilization, or the people of early Vedic civilization. So let's begin our class. So let's talk about the social life. So in social life, we had already discussed about the position of women, position of men in a family, and we also discussed about the family life, right? Now, we are going to discuss about the four-fold Varna system. So four-fold Varna system, that means in society, there were four Varnas. Like the first one was the Brahmin. This was the first Varna. And the second is Kshatriya. Then we have Vaishyas, and the last one is Shudras. So we can say that the Rig Veda refers to these four Varnas, and the name of those four Varnas were the Brahmin, Kshatriya, the Vaishyas and the Shudras, right? So from this we come to know Brahmins means the priestly class, Brahmins, right? Pandits. And Kshatriya, that means the warrior class. Kshatriya, the warrior class, and Vaishyas, that means merchant or trader, and the last one Shudras means Shudras were considered as inferior to these three classes, right? So Shudras, that means servants or untouchable, right? So these were the four Varna system which was okay. Now it's written here, the people who explained the Vedic text and who performed the religious ceremonies were known as Brahmins, the Pandits, priestly class. And those who belonged to the ruling class were the Kshatriyas. So Kshatriyas means what? Kshatriyas means the warrior class, right? And the common people who were engaged in agriculture, who were engaged in trade, commerce, or industry, they were known as Vaishyas. And the Shudras were known as servants, were the servants and laborers who worked in field, right? Did not have much to own, right? Scholars also said that there was considerable social mobility in the Rig Vedic society. There was no ban on the taking of cooked food by the Shudras, because Shudras were servant class, right? And they what they did the labor work in the field, right? So there was no ban, there was no restrictions on taking food cooked by the Shudras, and no restrictions on intermarriages. Intermarriages means intercaste marriages. And there was no restrictions on change of occupation. So people who wanted to change their occupations, they could easily change their occupation. So that was not stick to the like the occupation was not stick to the caste, right? According to the caste. Now let's talk about the economic life. So people were engaged in agriculture, people were engaged in domestication of animals, some were craftsmen, some were some were craftsmen, some were artisans, and some people were involved in trade transaction. So let's talk about the agriculture. So agriculture was the main occupations, and the Rig Vedic Aryans were mainly scattered in villages. They prayed for plentiful rain and the bountiful harvest, large herds of cattle, and good health. It clearly indicates that agriculture was an important occupation of the village. And however, the only grain referred to in Rig Vedic is Yava, which could mean grain in general or barley in particular. So the main staple grain was barley, which they called as Yava. Okay, so the agriculture was the main occupation of the Rig Vedic Aryans. Now next is domestication of animals, herding of cattle was also one of the domestication of animals was one of the occupations of Rig Vedic Aryans. They began to be dependent on a pastoral economy. Pastoral means cattle, related to cattle, animals. So cattle formed an important item of gifts made to the priest, right? That means dan, gifts. So the word gomat was used to signify a wealthy person. So wealthy person was signified as was known as gomat, a wealthy person. So it meant one who possessed many cattle, especially the cow, the bulls. Other domesticated animals were the ox, the horse, the dog, the goat, and the sheep. So these were the animals they used to domesticate. They used to keep with themselves, and they used to domesticate those. They used to domesticate those animals, right? So a wealthy person here, gomat, that means who possessed what? Many cattle and animals like cows, bulls, sheep, horse, dog, and goat, right? Now next is the crafts. So men and women were engaged in weaving cloth. The metal workers, the smiths, were skilled in making weapons, implements, and ornaments. The mental ayas mentioned in the Rig Veda is generally taken to mean copper or bronze. So people, both men and women, they were engaged in weaving clothes. They were engaged in making weapons. They were engaged in making implements, weapons, which were made up of ayas. That means copper or bronze. Right? Now next is trade transactions. So people of Rig Vedic Aryans, they were involved. Rig Vedic, they were involved in trade transactions also. So the people were engaged in trade, cloth and leather goods being the main items. The barter system was practiced for trade transactions. So very important, that is barter system. Barter system means money was not invented that time. So what they used to do, they used to exchange goods, exchange good in place of something, in place of articles, in place of goods, right? So exchange of goods is known as barter system. So they practiced barter system, and the cow was a standard unit of value, right? They used horses, bullocks for carrying goods from place to place, because horses and bullocks were what? They were known as beast of burdens, right? They also transported goods through the inland rivers. So they also transported goods through inland rivers, means the rivers which drain or which connect the two cities within that uh, two cities or two towns within that area, right? So inland rivers. Now next we have the topic brief study of governance and the political life. So what type of political life was there? A few villages form the Vishya, led by the Vishapati. Mainly many Vishyas formed a Jan, that means was ruled by Rajan or king. Rajan means king. There were a number of officials such as Senani. Senani was one of the officials who assisted whom? Who assisted Rajan, that means king. Purohita, that means Purohit, Pandit, and the Gramini, that means Gramini means the headman of the village. So, and these were the officials who held the king in the various responsibilities to run the government of that time. In this period, that means in Rig Vedic period, existed the two institutions which exercised an effective check on the powers of the king. So those two institutions were Sabha and Samiti. Samiti was formed by the representatives of the people, the chief or the leaders of villages and the towns. Secondly, it set its seal of approval on actions of the king. The Sabha constituted a few eminent persons, men of wealth and learning, learned persons. It was like a council of elders which guided the king in his administrative functions. So, two institutions were there in Rig Vedic period, who time to time assisted the king, time to time guided the king and advised the king, the Rajan, right? And not only that, they also kept eyes on king's activity and king's deed. Clear? Okay. So from this we can say that the political conditions or the political life of Rig Vedic period was like the political condition or political life of today, right? And or we can say that that the political life, that means the system was dictatorial system was not there. Dictatorial system means it's a system of one man rule, so that was not there, or that is not seen in Rig Vedic period. Clear? Okay. So let's move to the religious belief and religious life of the early Aryans. Nature worship. The religion of the Rig Vedic Aryans was very, very simple. The people were attracted by the bright and beautiful aspects of nature, and so they worshipped the various forces of nature and manifestations of the supreme God. They worshipped a number of nature gods. So nature gods like Surya, sun, or wind god, or rain god, thunder god, and they had given several names, right? They call these gods with the different names, like such as Varuna, that means Varun, that who regulated the seasons. Usha, the goddess of dawn. Surya, the sun god. Indra, the god of thunder, rain and war. Vayu, the wind god, right? And from this we come to know that Rig Vedic Aryans, they worship nature. Prithvi was the goddess of the earth. Agni personified the sacrificial fire. Though they worshipped many gods, they believed that there are manifestations of one supreme power. Though there were several gods, but what they thought that there was um, only one God or one supreme power, right? Sacrificial or sacrifices or the yajanas. The Aryans did not build any temples or make any image of for worship. So there were no evidence like temples or any images of gods, right? They prayed for God's favors by chanting hymns in the open ground or open air, right? And sacrifices and the yajanas occupied a prominent place, that means very important place in the early Vedic rituals. The common items of offerings for the sacrificial or sacrifice into that fire, that is ghee, milk, grain, flesh, and soma juice. Soma juice means it's a type of juice. They used to offer ghee, milk, and grain, flesh also, right? And as well as soma juice. So soma juice means it's a juice which is extracted out from the plants, right, children? Okay. So here we have completed the religious belief and religious life of early Vedic Aryans. Children, I'll take you leave now. In next video, I'll be coming with a new chapter with some new interesting stories and new interesting topics related to the later Vedic Aryans, right? So soon we'll meet in the next video. Bye-bye.